at the armed forces. And I'm happy to see you on the first Ukrainian channel of repairing of armored vehicles. It's really not not a lot of time that I began to create a content in English, or at least in a language that I imagine be most similar to English. Truly, I've never lived in an environment of English speakers. I've learned English from schools and from listening to YouTube podcasts and audiobook. For some time, something about half of a year, I've made a volunteer work at the LibriVox. The LibriVox, as far as I know, one of the largest volunteer websites which provide the way of volunteering, like readers of the books in the public domain, and of somewhat like proofreading, yes, to listen to the text and to check the probable mistakes that reader can do. Well, in the previous video I invited you, my dear viewers, to ask me any question you might be interested into my own defending of Ukraine against Russians, because I have heard of being the part of Ukrainian armed forces since the February 2022, right the first day of Russian large-scale invasion into Ukraine, which is going on till today, the 10th of May 2024. And having a lot of work to do, having really a huge amount of work to do, of vehicles to repair, and immense variety of working regarding that field, I realized that probably the only time I have to shoot some videos, not strictly informative, but just about my personal experience, some psychological ideas, experience on the war in the immediate short distance to the front line, some my ideas, thoughts about all this, my motivation, etc., etc. So the only time I can dedicate to this activity is when I ride my cars bought for me from the beneficiary jar, gave me as a gift by our dear supporters, volunteers, and sponsors from all around the globe, just like you probably. I hope it is so. Yes, and right now going from one place where I did help the tankers to repair the tank to another place where I will help another crews of fighting vehicles to make them work better. I'll try to answer the only question. The only question I had in the comments below the former video. Yes, the only thing the person had wrote to me is why am I repairing the old school Ukrainian armored vehicles, just the heritage, the Soviet heritage, the heritage of the USSR, the empire, which had spent a lot of resources to eradicate, to eliminate, to delete, to remove the Ukrainian national idea, the Ukrainian state, the Ukrainian culture, and any other thing regarding the Ukrainian conscience and nation. And still we go on using the Soviet armored vehicles, and despite there is a consistent amount of Western armored vehicles like M113, the most huge varieties of armored vehicles going on the wheels, going on the crawlers, going on probably in some other ways. I don't know. But why do I, having my humble knowledge of English, to the military in the same country? I can be wrong, but anyhow, any military knowing just at least an idea of the whole structure, of the military pyramid of commanders, units, officers, some units, politics, in inner stories, outer scenarios, etc., scenario. I believe that any military in any country wouldn't ask me that question, because long story short, he or she or them know very well that there is a lot of commander upper of me, in English, not below, upper of me. I have a lot of commanders, a whole pyramid of commanders which always know better, what I should do. And I've been a soldier. I'm duties, but I'm still a major soldier. Yes. I simply do what I said to done. And since my commanders, they have their reasons, they have their ideas, and any other kind of plans. And I sincerely say, I tell you completely sincerely, that if there should be of my choose between the having to deal with Soviet heritage and with the armored vehicles given to Ukraine from the foreign partners, from Europe, US, etc., etc., I'd more likely choose the first instead of the second. And now I'm going to try to explain you as briefly as possible my main reasons. First of all, we have to remember that the heritage of USSR, call them the modern Ukrainian or armored vehicles, have a relatively little variety of models, and most of them are unified about the spare parts, about the engineer solutions, the materials used. Basically, we have things like BMP-1, BMP-2, some few modifications of them, in total less than 10. Some evacuations vehicles on the chassis, some repairing vehicles on the chassis. We have the tanks like T-64, T-72, T-80, and their modifications. The same story, the whole amount of models, less than 10. All of them have the same spare parts. I repeat myself, nearly the same materials, the same rubber, metals, I don't know what else. Principles of working of some units like gearbox, the same principles, same schemes of the engines, etc., etc. Finally, it doesn't truly take a lot from you, having come from zero. I am basically the volunteer at the Ukrainian Armed Forces. I came voluntarily the first day of large-scale Russian invasion into Ukraine to defend it, and completely by fortune, I don't know, it didn't depend by my own choice, but I briefly found myself into the unit of repairing of armored vehicles, and I go on evolving. And this evolution from zero, from scratch, from completely nothing, till the commander of a unit of repairmen, going having my own cars, my own workshop, my own instrument for a really good amount of money. Nowadays, I imagine to have the personal workshop, bringing back into this pickup, and in part having in some points where I do work just these days, some kinds of mobile workshops. It's something around 1 million hryvnias, or few less. In United States dollars, it will be something like 20 of United States dollars. It's a good amount of instruments which allow to me not only to repair fighting vehicles with my own hands, but to give my own instrument to my comrades, of which I sometimes have command and sometimes is the people another battalions, most often the crews of the vehicles. So it's a few more than 2 years for having done this evolution. This evolution which I have an honor to bring go on and on and on. And this is possible because basically we have a few models of vehicles, relatively few engineer solutions. Briefly, I do the same set of actions with approximately the same set of mechanical pieces, gears, devices, etc., etc. The same routine, the same work, the same wrenches, the same bolts. Every blessed day, every nice and blessed day, I do the same work with the very similar armored vehicles. First of all is the infantry fighting vehicles, but also tanks and artillery vehicles. And when I snatch a look at the foreign aid to Ukraine, I see enormous, literally an enormous variety of vehicles of the most various kinds, types, years, countries, principal schemes, engineering solutions, some experimental vehicles. Most often it is the vehicles approximately of the same age as Soviet heritage. And these vehicles haven't been without proper working, without taking part at any military conflict for various tens of years, for a good amount of years. Most probably never. Some of them have never taken part in an active working, but since their production have been in the storage, under conservation, and in some conditions, they arrive here. And for that enormous variety of models, vehicles, etc., etc., I'm asking people using, repairing them in the Ukrainian armed forces. I ask them, but do you have the full theoretical base, the full set of knowledge of preparing, of literature, of manuals, of instructions for using them, for repairing them? Do you have this literature under your hand? They say no, we don't have, we move just intuitively and try to do our best because our commanders say us that all the literature about these vehicles is secret and no one will give it to you, so we have to go on screwing the bolts, the total functions of which we only imagine. We suppose that this gearbox works in this way. We suppose that this turbine does this function. But having no theoretical preparation, having no literature, no data, really no data about how to do it, are simply blind. We are really blind. Meanwhile, for all the Soviet heritage, we have all the set, all the variety, all the necessary literature, instructions, instruments, etc., 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 etc. Well, if ever I should have to go on repairing and making the technical maintenance of some kind of Western foreign armored vehicles, I most probably should start from scratch. Having no access to the literature, being that highly secret, having it to ask in most various in language, I don't know, in French, Italian, German, English, etc., etc. Being English not very problematic, but the same. All my instrument in the metric system, and for that once I should buy some instrument in the inches, and this infinity of details of difference truly makes me not to search for such a possibility, and the possibility to go on to contact with that kind of armored vehicles. And meanwhile, considering all that, I do strongly believe that our own armored vehicles are highly undervalued. They are truly highly undervalued. I strongly believe that it is done artificially. That all the set of structures, of media, etc., etc., make modern Ukrainian armored vehicles seem less able to fight and to win than those really are. In the time when we actually shouldn't have any real problem with the spare parts for them, because we have all the technologies, all the first materials, the metals, the materials used there are really most simple, most formidable. So these are the main reasons. The main reasons I go on repairing and making the technical maintenance of the Ukrainian post-Soviet armored vehicles, and not that coming in Ukraine from abroad. I'll repeat these 3 points and I'll finish this stream. going to one of our bases. Well, the first is that I don't, being a soldier, being a warrior, I don't receive such a commands by my command, and they have their reasons for that. Second, if I if I'd ever should, if I'd ever could to choose between going on repairing the Ukrainian armored vehicles and the foreign armored vehicles, I'd like to go on repairing the Ukrainian. And third, having the strong connection with the second is that I firmly believe that we undervalue we strongly, immensely undervalue our own armored vehicles, and basically, substantially, we have the tendency, we Ukrainians nowadays have the tendency to undervalue our language, culture, heritage, story, nation. The people go on all around the globe trying to find themselves, thinking that they are search for a harbor, the saving from the war. But basically, because in my humble opinion, they don't love themselves, they don't love their country, they don't love their land, their story, their language, they don't respect them as it should be respected, as I do respect, as I do love. Because since the first day of large-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine, with my blessed, and nowadays with the tattoo, and I went with no way back ticket to protect Ukraine, to defend Ukraine, the honor to do it since today, going on with Ukrainian armed forces, with Ukrainian language, with Ukrainian armored vehicles, with Ukrainian story, with Ukrainian culture, and eradicating, removing anywhere I'm able to, I'm allowed in any possible way the Russian occupation from my country, my blessed land, my second life, and for sure taking taking those Russians, simply Russians. I thought a really big amount of words to use to describe that, but it is always better to do with proper names. Neither orcs, homosexuals, I don't know, any other kind of animal or mythological creatures. No, they're Russians, and we remove them physically. I am happy to take part at this process. Be blessed. Thank you for your attention, and go on. We fight and we win.